convinced Libby, the library app, is trying to kill me. Greetings, royalty. My name is Olivia, and welcome back to my realm. So let's just get into it. If you are seeing this video, it is probably, well, let me back up. If I have not beclowned myself again, it is probably September 5th, Friday. On Thursday, I posted my August reading wrap up, and on Wednesday, I posted my August TBR because I beclowned myself in August when it comes to uploading bookish content on time. But all that said, hopefully in this it girl fantasy I have for next week, because I'm filming on August 30th, I have done all that, edited this video, and you're seeing it on time for once. And if that is the case, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If that's not the case and you're watching in the future or I upload it late, still welcome. I hope you stick around. So I want to keep this short and sweet. I am convinced Libby, the library app, is trying to kill me. Because if you know anything about Libby, as the sticker says, waiting on my Libby holds. Libby is an app connected to libraries. I think at least in the United States, I don't know about in other countries. But if your library is participating, you can get quote unquote free books. You know, we pay with our taxes, blah, blah, blah. But free books for us, right? Libby is a digital library that has access to ebooks and audiobooks that your library rents out. And then obviously we get to use digital copies of. My library is fairly small. And I'm super excited that they have such a huge selection of Libby. But often I have to wait months to get popular audiobooks, etc. They do have a skip the line program, but for the most part, it's not stuff I really want to read because I'm a romance reader primarily. So most of the time I have to wait months for sci-fi, fantasy, and romance books, audiobooks, and even ebooks that I put on hold, i.e. waiting on my Libby hold. But for whatever reason, my library, after I literally went there to pick up physical copies of some books, and I, put the books on hold months ago, or either said, I'm probably not going to get this book for a while, so let me go pick up the physical copy, decided to release not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 audiobooks that I have been waiting literally months for, in some cases, some just like a month, but still, all at the same time. And they all happen to be about, they're at least all over 10 hours long, but some of them are over 20 hours. So all that to say, I have less than 14 days, aka 2 weeks, to read most of them before they're back on my hold shelf, and potentially I've lost access for a couple of months. So yeah, I said we're gonna get right into it, and I have been talking away. So let's talk about the not 10, not 15, but 25 books with a plus sign, because I may have more as Libby releases these holds, that I want to read in September 2025. Now, I know this is a overly ambitious TBR, especially coming from me, who can't even seem to upload these TBR videos on time. And it feels very cursed because the only TBR video that I ever uploaded, actually I don't even think on time, probably late, when I started my channel in January of this year, officially started posting videos. I think I put mostly library copies on that, and I didn't read any of them. So this video feels a little cursed, but maybe it's more like breaking the curse, right? My cats are fighting, which means I am talking too long, because when I sit in this chair, never properly, I always love to give myself back problems and never sit like this. But whenever I sit in my reading chair in my room, they all fight to get on my lap, including my dogs. And so that means I have talked too long. So let's get into these books. So I sat back to save my spinal cord, but this is what I'm talking about. I don't know what has happened. I truly do not know what has happened. I'm giving you proof of this. 5:36, August 30th. I just had, The Truth According to Ember released 8 minutes ago that I have waited on. I kid you not. I think I've waited on this book for 6 months, and it released today. And that means I have 14 days to read it. I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally don't know what's going on right now. I don't know who I cursed at Libby. I don't know who has cursed me. I don't even have, like, I have to literally find a way to get rid of a book because I'm at 15 holds right now. So give me a second. I'm freaking out. Let's just get into it. I have nothing else to say. I am still a little sick, so if you hear a bit of wheeze in my voice, that's why. And then also I have a like cooler refrigerator in my room, so if you hear buzzing on and off, that's why too. But let's just get into it. I have paperback copies / hardcover copies either from the library or sometimes on my shelves of a lot of these, and some are just strictly audiobooks. Now my dog is also now picking up all his toys, so there's that. Anyway, been talking too much. I'm still kind of in a state of shock because book number 1 on my September 2025 TBR is The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava, which is a contemporary romance novel that I got from, let me use my thinking powers here. I gotta look it up because I can't remember powers going on. Yes, Love Bound Library. And so I originally put the audiobook on hold. Hear me out right now. March 21st of this year. So it has been 6 months since I put the audiobook on hold. And the reason I got the audiobook is because I wanted to read this book for a challenge that says read a Native American romance, for like a bookish challenge I'm doing and recording in my reading journal. And also because the main protagonist, Ember, and her love interests are Chickasaw, indigenous people of America, Native Americans, I really wanted to make sure I wasn't mispronouncing names. So that's also why I got the audiobook. I was excited to read this book, but it's been so long now that honestly, well, I read a bit of the back cover summary, so I know why. It's about Ember Lee Cardinal, who pretends to be a white woman because she was not getting any job offers, and I think a lot of minorities can relate to this, marking that she was a person of color or going into job interviews. I do not believe the term passing is appropriate for an indigenous protagonist, but what she does is essentially pass as a white woman. She marks herself as white. She doesn't bring up the fact that she's Chickasaw to her coworkers. And in the Black community, at least, we would consider this passing. If you can pass in society as a white person, especially back in the Jim Crow era, and racial segregation and basically all the heightened dangers of being Black generally, and being perceived as Black especially, that was what the Black community called it / calls it, passing. I don't know what indigenous people would call it, but anyway, that's essentially what she does. But of course, she falls for a hottie in IT at a company that has a no dating policy. These two end up getting into a secret dating relationship, and blackmail and lies stack up, and yeah, hotness ensues. I am excited to read this, or at least I was very excited back in March, but I hope this is a great fun read. It's also 9 hours long, so I feel like that would be a good one to read between like walking my dog, cleaning, now that I don't feel like absolute death, and having the book as a guide. Because if you're wondering why, and if you're a distinguished guest, you've never seen my channel before, hello, hope you subscribe and stick around, right? But if you are royalty, a returning subscriber, you're aware that I have a lot of books. I haven't done a like library tour, but I do have what I would consider a home library. Just looking at my shelves when I usually talk at my bookshelves versus my reading chair, you can tell I own a lot of physical books. But on top of that, I am dyslexic, and so audiobooks became not only a ability tool, I guess, for me as well, but it also became my preferred way to read even print books in a way I guess they call immersive reading, where you actually listen to the audiobook, or like music and like a playlist that really relates while you read the book, right? And so yeah, that is the reason why. If you're like, why did you wait from March to now? Past reading a whole bunch of books between now and then, so you know, when you're not only shopping your shelves and you're reading new releases and other things, old things that you were hyped about tend to fall to the wayside. But also just the fact that I was legitimately waiting for the audiobook, as a, I don't know why I've been using my thumb as my first finger to count recently. Weird. But as a way to help with my dyslexia, but also as a way to properly pronounce names. Because yeah, I really don't want to mess up their names. And I'll be quite honest, I don't know how to say the hero's name. And so that's why I'm not saying the hero's name. So that's why I can't wait to finish this book in September, and definitely finish it in September, because I'm not waiting another 6 months to read this. Trying to fix my hair, get a better angle. I feel like every time I fix a little something, like I'm no longer looking this way, I'm looking right at the camera, right? My hair gets messed up, something gets messed up, so we're just, the refrigerator turns back on, so we're just gonna roll with the punches. You know how it be when you're trying to record a video, or even if you don't know, it seems like everything goes wrong when you don't have like a professional setup that's noise proof, etc. And you have a ton of pets like me. So anyway, the counter, I'm going to keep on the bottom of the screen because these are a lot of books, way more than I've ever attempted to read in a month. I'll be quite honest with you. The rest of the stack will be much quicker. I'm not really going to go into too much depth about what the other books are because I was just kind of blindsided by getting the truth according to Ember. I really wanted to discuss that. But the other ones I'm going to try to keep it a little bit quicker so this video isn't held to edit and I actually get it up on time. Especially because if I do end up reading them, this September's, given a little preview, September's reading wrap up will actually be a continuous wrap up, something I've never done before, which basically I read and then instantly review the book, and so splice all that content together because these are library books that will have different return dates, and so I don't want to end up losing the copies of the physical books. Of course, if I had like an audiobook, then I'll just pop up the audiobook cover on the screen, but you get what I mean. So I'm going to try something different in September, and then actually see if that works long term for help me get these videos up on time. But long tangent to say, let's go and get it done. And Fort, you stay out of that bathroom. Thank you. So the next 4 books, raising my counter up to 5, are all in the Kagurabachi series. Book 1, which has a horrible glare because they're library copies. Book 2, Book 3, which I think is actually the coolest cover so far, and then a book 4. So this is a shonen battle manga, and if you don't know what a manga is, you don't know what shonen is. Manga is just a term for Japanese comics, and shonen is an age demographic. Think young adult in America. Shonen is aimed at young adult boys in Japan. I feel like shonen has been pushed on even female readers, obviously, because it was really what was being published and pushed when I was younger. But I do feel like the stories still really stand up. They tend to still be really, really fun. I am more primarily a shoujo girly slash josei, which just means manga for young girls up to older women. But I love me a shonen battle manga. And even though, what is it, Gachiakata, Kagurabachi, like the titles are getting a little hard for your standard American girl like me, I do feel like they're doing stuff a little bit more fresh in the genre too, which has brought me back to it from your standard Bleach, Naruto. Never was really big into One Piece, but Dragon Ball Z I was really into, still kind of into that kind of stuff. Like I feel like these are giving something new and different. And honestly, they're all kind of giving me D. Gray Man vibes, and I will be doing a D. Gray Man video because I believe the 20th or 25th, I know that's a big range there, but I think it's the 20th anniversary of the Gray Man releasing in America is next year. I believe it started releasing in 2006. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, I plan to do a huge video essay about it and talk about its influence on what I think at least its influence on current day shonen manga. Along with the 90s and obviously all the older influences of like Ghost Detective, darker themes, demons, etc. That's like really popular right now. So went into a long tangential rant. Maybe each one of these segments really will be like this. We'll see. But back to Kagurabachi. Why did I pick this series up? I'll be very honest with you, I did not want to purchase them because I have a huge collection of manga and books already. My library had the first two, and then just recently I went in there 3 days ago and they got 3 and 4. And so I said, let me get them to check them out, all because this really got memed onto my screen. If you don't know about it, just look up Kagurabachi. It was a whole meme campaign, I guess, to try to save the manga from going, like, getting dropped by a weekly Shonen Jump where it's serialized. But maybe that really wasn't true. But anyway, the English manga community memed this onto my screen on like MangaTube. And so I was like, it looks pretty interesting. Let me check it out. It's about Chihiro Rokuhira, who is the son of a legendary swordsmith. 6 of his blades have fallen into the hands of other people after his death, but his secret 7th blade is held by his son, and he's kind of on a revenge tour. It's giving like demon mobster vibes, kind of. So we'll see. Don't know much about the series other than the memes, and I really hope I enjoy it. For 6 and 7, I am reading volumes 2 and 3 of Spy X Family. Super popular series. I think has kind of even transcended the manga and anime community. I'll be quite honest. It's like sometimes some people's first manga I've heard a lot. That's like it really introduced some people to the format as well. I actually own volume 1 because I got it on a thrift book sale where I get most of my books. And I found out my library actually has most of the other volumes. So I said if I like volume 1, I will just continue reading for free at the library versus buying any more copies. It is essentially a family. There is the titular spy who is assigned on this mission. I can't really, it's like a vaguely Cold War-esque alternative world that's going on. So that's why it's kind of having that retro 50s, 60s, 70s mashup in the art style and clothing choices. But anyway, the spy, who is Twilight, I totally didn't need to read the back cover synopsis to figure that out. Twilight ends up fake marrying this assassin woman and has this telepathic child as well, and a family to infiltrate an academy for reasons I'm honestly not remembering. Now, this does not seem to be a ringing endorsement of why I'm starting this series, but I've heard a lot of really good things about it. It has a very popular anime. It is a shonen manga, but even reading volume 1, it was giving more shoujo-ish feels to me, and it's really hard to explain why, but it just is. And I kind of understood why this has a huge female fan base as well, because it has, I mean, 2 of the best romance tropes ever, which is marriage of convenience and basically a found family trope. So I feel like I'm gonna like it. It has the ingredients and stuff I like, but we'll see if I do like it. I have volume 1 and I have 2 and 3 from the library and basically the rest of the series to keep going. Okay, books 8 and 9 really don't need introduction. I now own book 1 in this series, but I read it on and off back when I was a very young child and devoured the anime, loved the anime. It is a shoujo classic, and you already know, well, maybe you don't know, but if you're in the community, you know, Ouran High School Host Club, usually referred to as Ouran Host Club. Now, this series, the nostalgia I feel looking at these covers, like it's taking me to a different planet. On top of being subscribed to Weekly Shonen Jump, the actual magazine, like the comic magazine in America, I was a subscriber to Shoujo Beat, aka my mom paid for it. I was too young. But yeah, like I like thinking back to that era, like when I used to get like Shoujo Beat in the mail, I would literally transcend my body when I would get the magazine, including all my other Y2K, I guess that's what the kids are calling it, like air magazines, the girly pop era. And so Ouran Host Club reminds me so much of that era. Now, will this manga stand up to the test of time? We will see, because I read mostly at the library as a child. I very rarely got new books because if I did, like my mom would give me money and I would go and purchase like a book. But most of the time I would read from the library. because it was just endless selection. I had a beautiful, historic, humongous library. And now that I live in a community with a very, very small library, I realize now how so many kids are just like, why would I go to the library? Like the library, like taking me to the library was like the best thing ever, because they had like all these fun activities. They had computers. That was like a big attraction back then. Unlimited Wi-Fi. They would have food and games for us kids. And they would have a humongous selection of books, including comics, where I got introduced to what mangas were, because I was watching like you know, Sailor Moon, Naruto, etc., but not really knowing that it was something different, because A, it was dubbed into English, and B, I would watch it on the same networks I would watch other cartoons, so I just thought they were cartoons. This introduced me to comics, which then introduced me to Western comics, and I'm going on a long tangent. This is going to be a long video. I'm sorry, editor Olivia, you're in for some trouble to get this up by Friday. But anyway, Ouran Host Club was my life. Haruhi X Tamaka were my original OTP one true pairing. Like, they really changed my life. Haruhi as a female character was life-changing for me. I just love this series. And so I hope it stands up to the test of time, because what I wanted to do was a lot of series. So I'm an avid manga collector on top of, and comic collector on top of book collector. I really wanted to see if it was worth it to collect the entire series in print, because, spoiler alert, I actually have never finished this series, because if you grew up reading manga in the library, you know that libraries would have the most random assortment of comics, because people like me would take out like volume 2 and 3 for like months, and then you would be left with volume 1, 7, 8, 27 to read from. And especially once I started watching the anime, I really didn't want to try to keep up. I didn't have a concept of what a book hold was. Like, I was just winging it when I would go in that library. So I've never read the series all the way through. I've watched the anime an embarrassing amount of times. And I really want to know if it makes sense for me to buy the manga, because my nostalgia is more attached to the anime. So I'm thinking either I want to collect both, get just the DVDs on eBay or whatever of the anime, or since I have easier access to the anime, just collect the mangas. Whatever the case may be, that's why I got Ouran High School Host Club volumes 2 and 3. Okay, number 10, we are getting into a bit of her cat territory slash basically everything I'm reading between July 2025 and July 2026. And if you don't know what Her Cat is, please check out my playlist. And the announcement video on my part is linked in the comments, as well as Quirky Stephanie here on YouTube's announcement video, who started the challenge. It's the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. You'll hear me talk about it ad nauseum for the next year, because basically all the books I'm reading are for that challenge now, or are going to double up for that challenge. So this book is related to part of Her Cat, which is setting a personal challenge for yourself. And my personal challenge, I know sounds absolutely insane, but hear me out. It is actually to complete every single prompt from Her Cat 1, because this is the second iteration of the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, because I only heard about it this year. The prompts for the first challenge are actually very interesting. And so what I'm planning on doing is not like reading 100 to 200 plus more books. Me finishing 400 books in a year would be absolute bananas insanity. I just don't think I could handle it. I'm just not going to try to even attempt that. What I'm going to actually do is try to just use books I'm reading already and just apply them retroactively. But some of the prompts are pretty unique. And for example, one of the prompts for Her Cat 1 was to read, it's either 3 or 4 or 5, somewhere in that general territory, of Authortuber's novels. And so I picked The Principle of Moments, a sci-fi space opera epic by Esmie Jikiemi-Pearson, who is an English author from the UK, who wrote, again, this black sci-fi epic. But she is also an Authortuber. She is active on Authortube here on YouTube. And so obviously it's going to apply to that prompt very specifically, because it's not like that prompt is on Her Cat 2, so I could use a book from Her Cat 2. Like, I literally had to get an interlibrary loan just for this book to apply to Her Cat 1. But then I'm then going to use whatever I can from the Her Cat 2 prompts to also double up, triple up. I'm being a little confusing here, but basically look at my announcement video, look at QWERTY's announcement video, go look at the rules, and you'll get a little bit more of an idea of what I'm talking about here. But essentially why I got this book, and I'm definitely reading it in September, is because it is an interlibrary loan from the Salt Lake Public Library system that has no renewals. So that means if I don't get this done, I believe by September 10th or 19th, something around, and I know my date ranges are really wide right now, my brain is not braining, but somewhere in mid-ish September, I'm going to lose this copy and have to pay $3 more for it. And I'm not doing that because not only does my library not have a physical copy, Libby does not have an ebook or audiobook, and I'm not paying full price for something I got for $3. So we're going to do that. Book 11 on the list, I have it here because not only do I have a library copy from my library, but I have an audiobook hold on Libby that I fear I may get in September. So this one is a one because I kind of picked it up just because I was browsing. I just kind of picked it up, not remembering how many more library copies I still had to get through because I tend to go to my library a lot. But I picked up this one, Realm of Thieves by Karina, Halle, basically because it sounded like your typical romantasy. I'm not going to lie here. It's a girl down on her luck, probably a secret princess. I don't know. You know, I'm just using the standard romantasy plot here, who is working with a den of thieves, but obviously she's not really evil. She's stealing dragon eggs, very illegal practice. I think there's a kidnapping by Lord Andor Colbeck, the formidable lieutenant of House Colbeck, who has political games and rival dynasties, and it's a romantasy. That's basically why I picked it up. Am I going to be bummed if I don't read this / if I get the audiobook and I lose it? Not really. It was kind of an impulse pickup from the library, but it's on the list nevertheless because I'm just going to be big, bold, and audacious because the list already is absolutely insane. Next up is an audiobook that I figured I would have for a few more months, and then decided during a library run, thinking I wouldn't get the audiobook copies for a while, and saying, you know what, I'm just going to try to get them done. And that is Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura, which is a rom-com heavily inspired by things like Tomb Raider. Obviously, the title of the very famous movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's like a 80s adventure classic, right? But I honestly don't know much about this other than it seemed punny, it seemed like a rom-com, and at the time when I didn't have like 25 Libby audio / ebooks and physical library books to contend with, this seemed like something fun I could just pick up on a nice, easy, breezy Saturday, Sunday weekend read. But anyway, hopefully I can get it finished. It's The Summer I Ate the Rich by Meka Moliti and Maritza Moliti, who are actually sisters, Haitian sisters. This kind of plays on Haitian zombie lore / Haiti is the inspiration. They're the blueprint for zombies. It comes from their lore that we get the concept of zombies. And so this girl works as like a cook for this upper class family. I think she wants to be a doctor. I could be totally wrong. It's not on the back cover. Maybe it's on the inside. Yeah, Briella loves to cook, but was a chronically sick mother and bills to pay. Becoming a chef isn't a realistic career. She is cooking for, you know, rich families as a side gig, basically. And it says, you know, the guests love her dishes, and it says the secret ingredient, human flesh. So yeah, just add lemon, garlic, and a dash of the 1%. It's satirical. It is playing on, you know, the us versus them, the 1% who, you know, rule our society, the underdogs. I thought this was also an adult book when I picked it up. Did not look at the huge fat YA sticker here, so we'll see. I was not really in the mood for a young adult book with these types of themes, but I'm gonna try it out, see if I really like it. It seems like I'm gonna like it. The cover is killer. Briella maybe is a killer. We'll see. And yeah, it just seems really interesting. I don't have the ability to get an ebook or an audiobook off of Libby, so I do actually have to finish this hardback. We have The Great Misfortune of Stella Sedgwick, which is a black woman, a young woman set in, you know what, I don't even know what time period in English society, but basically she has desires that are not befitting of a young woman of her time period. Her cousin or friend, one second, her cousin Olivia, which that made me go, ooh, I actually had 2 books now where my name has popped up as like a side character, which I'm like, ooh, ooh. For such a popular name, I don't really read a lot of protagonists at all. What's the first name, Olivia? So seeing my name pop up as a side character is always also shocking. But anyway, Olivia and Stella head off to the big city to see what they can do. Stella runs into an old love, and yeah, it's giving Bridgerton. It's giving basically every historical romance. Just add that beautiful, beautiful black twist. And so black people existed in Europe well before slavery. They just existed in more of the clothing and fashion and society of Europe post-emancipation, obviously, because that became their home. And so this isn't Bridgerton in the sense that it's twisting white characters from Julia Quinn's novel into different races. I think this is an original story. It is also young adult, but I thought it looked pretty cool, and you know what? I'm going to give it a chance. 14, we have another book that really doesn't need a lot of explanation because it's very popular, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which is a novel by Heather Fawcett. And yeah, this one is very, very popular. I think it's written in the style of like field notes of another English, Cambridge professor who goes off and studies fairies, right? So this one seems very interesting. Everyone describes it as very cozy, and I really wanted something that felt more fallish as summer was winding down. I also have access to the audiobook, but this is one that if I can get to, great. If I can't, it's not a big deal. Versus the next book we're going to be talking about, book 15, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, a Crowns of Nyxia novel, a book 1 in the Nightborn duet by Carissa Broadbent. So I got this hardback back in like Christmas time, 2024, I want to say, from a small shop. What was that shop's name? Oh, I can't remember it right now. Was it like The Last Chapter? It was a romance bookstore in I think the Logan neighborhood in Chicago, back when I was visiting family. But anyway, I did not realize, because I was not reading. Back then, I was not a reader in the sense that I had been in a years-long reading slump. So using that critical thinking was a little hard. This is actually a vampire novel from what I've gathered, which I did not think it was. It was actually a cover by, let me check, because I do think, yes, it is actually a signed edition as well, like physically signed by the author, not a printed signature. And it was like a short sale on it. So I was like, okay, let me check it out. Everyone's kind of raving about this. Did not realize it was a vampire novel. Also didn't realize that people describe it as the romantasy book, like it's very romantasy. And you might be going, girl, don't you have another romantasy book? I actually do not like a lot of modern romantasy. I enjoyed it, but wasn't crazy about A Court of Thorns and Roses. DNF'd Fourth Wing, like it was one of the worst reads of the year for me. Love the author, Rebecca Yarros is a wonderful, sweet human being. Love her to life, but hated that book. So I'm actually very scared because I prefer werewolves. And this seems to be very romantasy. It's actually compared to A Court of Thorns and Roses. So we'll see. And we'll see. But I got this audiobook after holding it forever. Primarily because before I started my challenge to read like 100 books this year, I was thinking I might get through like 5. And I know that seems like way off, but I didn't realize how much I would regain the ability to read again. After a fire and other traumatic stuff, I was reading about maybe 10 manga a year and then like maybe one novel in a year. So, and that went on for about 4 or 5 years. And so I did not know I would go from that to being able to read. Pretty much, if I get through this list right here, I will hit 100 books, I think, for the year. So all that to say, when I thought I was going to be reading less than 10 books this year, I got the audiobook and didn't mind waiting because I was like, a fantasy title. And yeah, I was like, oh, I really want to be able to pronounce the names correctly. Ha ha ha, joke's on me. I have gotten the audiobook after months and probably will lose it. But look, we're staying Delulu. We're staying delusional until the end. Until the end of September, we're going to pretend I'm reading all of this. Now, back to historical land, and that is Kamu Golden by Satoru Noda, which is basically a historical Russian-Japanese war era set manga, which is a very interesting read. I actually found out about this manga series because there is a movie that is on Netflix, and maybe even 2 movies, and I was like, this seems really interesting, but the premise seemed pretty wacky because it had an indigenous Japanese girl. I forget what they're called. I think they're called Anu, they're people, the indigenous people of Japan. And this kind of like ex-soldier guy going on an adventure to find lost gold, I think is the premise. And I was like, this sounds very like manga-esque, and lo and behold, it is actually based on a manga. So excited to read that. Don't know much about it, but it is a fairly short manga. The art looks really good. Here's the girl in question, and yeah, it just seemed really, really interesting. Plus, he looks like a badass with those scars, and she just looks like a cutie pie that also can defend herself. Really don't have to say much about it. World Fantasy Award winner Fonda Lee's Jade City. I believe I will get this audiobook very, very soon. And by very soon, I think maybe by the end of the day, with the way I'm getting these audiobook holds. I have actually never finished it, so I really do want to finish, and so this is on my list as well. Well, I've been ranting for a while, and so I just want to get to the rest of the books that are on Libby that I either currently hold and really need to read, or basically I think I'm going to get pretty soon. So the first up is Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry. This one is another romantasy, but people say it's giving more like Hunger Games, and so I am excited to read it. You know, girl that can save the world type of deal, which is kind of speaking to my young adult heart, because I feel like a lot of romantasy these days is like very YA and not like good YA. And I know that comes off as very catty as a fellow author, but you know, even if I am an author, I also have opinions about books, right? I feel like most authors are readers, or should be readers at the very least. And I just feel like a lot of romantasy are all the like bad tropes of YA, aged up and often sexed up for adults. So Shield of Sparrows, while it does seem to be very YA inspired, it seems also very exciting. And sorry if my camera starts shaking. As you can see, my dog Knox is like fighting me right now. I guess I'm too long, because he is also crazy jealous as well. So that's book 18. Book 19 is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. That is a 3-hour-long audiobook. So if I don't finish that one, I'm actually going to be disgusted, because Shield of Sparrows, I've waited about 2 months. All Systems Red about a month, even though it said I should get it like right away, and it just kept being placed on hold. Both of those copies also have people waiting for them, so I'm going to actually lose the book if I don't finish it soon. So All Systems Red, very, very famous sci-fi novella series about a sentient AI, basically a murder bot. I think the murder bot series is being adapted, or has been adapted for TV by Apple TV, so also kind of reason why I want to read the book as well before I start the series. This one actually pains me. I do not know why it was released so soon. I put it on hold, expecting about 4 or 5 months away. Maybe if I was lucky around December time when I had more time. And then the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin is released. So I have never finished the series, and so I really just wanted to do a big read. I have the omnibus of the entire series, as well as like a bonus novel. And so it is super, super infamous. Or infamous is the wrong word, famous. N.K. Jemisin is an extremely accomplished author, fantasy author. And I'm just like, why have I not finished this series? It's actually embarrassing to say that. Even though I've read you can never read everything, if that makes sense. But at some point, I feel like as an author / editor, I feel like there are some works that I just need to read, like they're mandatory, and I need to finish the Broken Kingdom trilogy / the novella. I think at the beginning of this video I said 25. I'm already on delusional territory that rivals someone that needs to be dragged into one of those padded white rooms. As the meme goes, I scream as they drag me away. So we're just going to end on 20 because this is already going to be the most ambitious TBR I've ever put together. As you can see, as I scroll this list, more books that I went over that are included in this. I'm probably going to lose access, but you know what? I'm just going to lose access because I refuse to put a single more book on this TBR. So as always, I pose a question at the end of my videos. Are you going to be Delulu with me? Do you have a very, very insane September TBR? Or a better question would be, what books do you plan to read in September? As you can see, I am trying to potentially lose the ability to understand the English language with the amount of books I'm trying to read. But I would love to know. I always love recommendations, even though I have all these books to read and all the books on my shelves. I love books. That's why I started a BookTube. And so I would love to know what you're reading in September. Well, with that, I am going to say goodbye, Royalty, because, and our distinguished guests, if you stuck around this long, because honestly, the thought of editing this video is terrifying me more than reading these books, and that is not a good sign. So for now, farewell. Until next time. Bye!